The battlefield falls silent until a roar shatters the air. Not thunder, not artillery. It's the sound of the MG-42. Feared by Allied soldiers in World War II, it earned dark nicknames like Hitler's Buzzsaw and the Meat Grinder. Its terrifying rate of fire didn't just kill, it broke morale. But what's truly shocking is this. More than 80 years later, its legacy still echoes on modern battlefields. Why? Because the MG-42 wasn't just a weapon. It was a revolution in design, efficiency, and psychological warfare. Today, we uncover the dark reason why the MG-42 is still in service. How can a weapon built in 1942 still shape modern warfare? The MG-42 wasn't just another machine gun. It was a monster of engineering, a weapon so efficient that armies couldn't let it die. Its brutal rate of fire created not only destruction, but fear itself. Soldiers who heard it scream never forgot it. Decades later, its descendants still roar on battlefields under new names and new flags. Was it simply too perfect to replace, or too terrifying to erase? Today, we dig into the dark secret behind the MG-42's survival and why its legacy refuses to fade. The story of the MG-42 begins in the ashes of early World War II. Germany's existing machine gun, the MG-34, was an excellent weapon, precise, accurate, and versatile. But it was expensive and time-consuming to produce. It relied heavily on precision machine parts, which made mass production difficult in a war that demanded speed and quantity. As the conflict intensified, German engineers were tasked with creating a weapon that could deliver the same devastating firepower, but at a fraction of the cost and time. In 1942, the result emerged, the Maschinengewehr 42, or MG-42. It was revolutionary not only in performance but also in philosophy. Instead of milled steel, it used stamped and pressed components that could be made quickly, even by less skilled workers. Every curve, every rivet had a purpose. Function over form, efficiency over elegance. The MG-42's rate of fire, between 1,200 and 1,500 rounds per minute, was unmatched at the time. To the enemy, it sounded like tearing fabric or a chainsaw, earning it nicknames like Hitler's Buzzsaw and the Scream of Death. This ferocious rhythm created a wall of bullets that could suppress entire units and devastate infantry assaults in seconds. But the genius of the MG-42 went beyond its speed. It was designed for battlefield practicality. A quick-change barrel system allowed gunners to replace an overheated barrel in seconds. The roller lock bolt system ensured smooth operation even under dirt, mud, or extreme heat. By the end of the war, the MG-42 had set a new standard for what a general-purpose machine gun could be. Its influence didn't end with Nazi Germany's defeat. It became the blueprint for future weapons around the world, shaping the very concept of modern automatic firepower. What made the MG-42 so extraordinary wasn't just how fast it fired. It was how it achieved that speed and reliability. German engineers in the Mauser Works approached the project with a clear goal: to create the most efficient, durable, and easily mass-produced machine gun in the world. The MG-42 would prove that simplicity, when perfected, could be deadlier than complexity. The first and most radical design choice was its use of stamped steel parts. Unlike the MG-34, which required labor-intensive machining, the MG-42 used sheet metal that could be pressed into shape in minutes. This reduced manufacturing time by more than half and allowed thousands of weapons to be produced each month, even under wartime pressure. The receiver, top cover, and even the bipod were formed through stamping. Strong, light, and cheap. It was an industrial weapon built not for luxury, but for mass destruction. Then came its roller-locked bolt mechanism, one of the most innovative systems of the era. Instead of relying on complicated locking lugs or gas systems, the MG-42 used two small rollers that locked the bolt into the barrel extension when firing. This design allowed for extremely fast cycling without compromising strength or safety. Combined with a powerful recoil-operated system, it enabled that infamous rate of fire, up to 1,500 rounds per minute, nearly twice that of Allied machine guns like the Browning M 1919. To support such speed, the engineers added another brilliant feature, the quick change barrel system. During sustained fire, barrels overheated rapidly. In most guns, changing them was slow and dangerous. On the MG42, it took less than 10 seconds. The assistant gunner simply flipped open the side hatch, pulled out the hot barrel with an asbestos glove or tool, slid in a fresh one, and the gun was ready again. This innovation allowed continuous firing for hours with minimal interruption. Another subtle yet critical detail was the flared receiver design. It wasn't aesthetic. It helped guide the ammunition belt smoothly, preventing jams in muddy or dusty environments. The feed mechanism was also simplified and robust, allowing the gun to feed from either a 50-round drum or long belts, giving flexibility for both mobile and defensive roles. Everything about the MG42 screamed efficiency. The return spring was placed behind the bolt for balance. The trigger group was straightforward, no unnecessary switches or delicate levers. Soldiers could field strip and reassemble it in minutes, even under stress. The result was a machine gun that could function almost anywhere. The frozen ruins of Stalingrad, the deserts of North Africa, or the forests of Normandy. It earned a reputation for reliability under the worst conditions, a gun that almost never quit. But beyond mechanics, the MG42 was psychological warfare in steel. Its ultra-high rate of fire produced a terrifying, continuous roar. To those under its sights, it felt less like a weapon and more like a force of nature. This combination of industrial design, battlefield efficiency, and raw intimidation made the MG42 not just different, but unforgettable. It was the blueprint for modern firepower. To understand the true power of the MG42, you have to imagine the battlefield through the ears of the soldiers who faced it. The moment the gun opened fire, it didn't sound like individual shots. It was a single, terrifying scream of metal. At 1,200 to 1,500 rounds per minute, the rate of fire was so fast that the human ear couldn't distinguish separate gunshots. It was a ripping, grinding roar that earned the MG42 its infamous nickname, Hitler's Buzzsaw. For Allied soldiers, the effect was devastating. Many described the experience as pure chaos. The moment they heard the MG42, they instinctively hit the ground or froze in fear. The sound wasn't just loud, it was psychological warfare. Soldiers believed that the gun could wipe out entire units in seconds, even when the rounds were missing. That perception alone broke morale. German commanders knew this and used the MG42's acoustic terror deliberately. They placed the gun strategically along defensive lines, ensuring that their overlapping walls of sound created the illusion of greater firepower. In reality, one MG42 team could pin down an entire platoon. The distinctive sound carried for miles across battlefields, spreading panic long before enemies even saw the source. The psychological effect became part of the weapon's identity. Some American troops claimed they could recognize the MG42 before seeing muzzle flashes, and that its scream haunted them long after combat. In war, perception can be as powerful as bullets. The MG42 proved that the mind could be targeted as effectively as the body. Its sound became a symbol of death, chaos, and German efficiency, turning the very noise of battle into a weapon of fear. When World War II ended, most German weapons were banned or destroyed, but the MG42 refused to die. Its design was too effective, too practical, and too far ahead of its time to be forgotten. Engineers, soldiers, and entire nations saw in it the blueprint for the perfect general-purpose machine gun. In the 1950s, as West Germany rebuilt its military under NATO, the need for a reliable machine gun resurfaced. Rather than inventing a new design from scratch, German engineers revived the MG42, modernized it, chambered it for NATO's standard 7.62 by 51 mm cartridge, and gave it a new name, the MG1, soon refined into the MG3. The MG3 kept the soul of the MG42, the roller-locked bolt, the quick-change barrel, the stamped steel body, but introduced several modern improvements. The rate of fire was reduced slightly to around 1,000 to 1,200 rounds per minute for better control. New materials improved durability, and compatibility with NATO ammunition and mounts made it easier to integrate with Western armies. The result was a masterpiece of modernization, a weapon that retained the brutal efficiency of its ancestor, while fitting seamlessly into Cold War logistics. The MG3 became standard issue across much of Europe, from Germany and Italy to Norway, Greece, and Turkey. Even non-European countries such as Pakistan and Iran manufactured local copies under license. More than 80 years after the MG42 first roared to life, its descendants remain in active service. The MG3 is still mounted on tanks, vehicles, and in infantry units around the world. In the end, the MG42's rebirth as the MG3 proves something profound. When a weapon achieves near-perfect balance between firepower, reliability, and simplicity, it doesn't just survive history, it becomes part of it. Why is a machine gun designed in 1942 still used today? The answer isn't just nostalgia or engineering brilliance. It's rooted in something darker, the cold logic of war. The MG42 and its modern descendant, the MG3, remain in service because they represent the perfect blend of fear, efficiency, and economy, a combination that modern armies still find irresistible. First, there's the power of psychological warfare. The MG42's terrifying rate of fire wasn't only designed to kill, it was designed to control. Even in modern conflicts, suppressive fire remains one of the most important tactical elements. A weapon that can pin down enemy forces through sheer sound and volume of fire is priceless. Soldiers may be better trained today, but human fear hasn't evolved. The MG3 still delivers that same overwhelming presence on the battlefield, one that says, "Don't move. You're already dead second." The economics of war favor designs like the MG42. Creating a new weapon system costs billions, while upgrading a proven one costs far less. The MG3 uses cheap stamped steel, simple mechanics, and interchangeable parts that can be manufactured in almost any industrial setting. For many nations, especially those with limited budgets, it's far more practical to maintain a weapon that works than to replace it with something new and untested. Third, it's about reliability. The MG42/MG3 can function in almost any condition: mud, snow, sand, heat, when other guns jam or fail. Its simplicity means fewer moving parts to break, easier training for operators, and less maintenance. Armies trust it because it's predictable, and in war, predictability is survival. Finally, there's the inertia of military tradition. Once a weapon becomes part of a nation's arsenal, replacing it isn't just about performance, it's about infrastructure, doctrine, and identity. Generations of soldiers have trained on MG42-based systems. Armies build tactics, vehicles, and mounts around them. To abandon that system entirely would mean rewriting decades of combat experience. So yes, the MG42 still lives, not because humanity admires it, but because war rewards what works. Its dark legacy isn't nostalgia, it's necessity. And that perhaps is the most unsettling truth of all. Despite its legendary status, the MG42 and its successor, the MG3, is far from perfect. Its most obvious flaw lies in the very thing that made it famous: the incredibly high rate of fire. While devastating in short bursts, it burns through ammunition at an alarming rate. In prolonged engagements, this means heavier logistical loads, frequent reloads, and the constant need for spare barrels to prevent overheating. The MG42's power and recoil also demand a well-trained crew. New or inexperienced gunners often struggle to control the weapon, especially during long bursts. Without discipline, accuracy drops and ammunition is wasted. Another controversy involves its identity and symbolism. The MG42's origins in Nazi Germany make it a weapon forever linked with one of history's darkest regimes. Even though the MG3 is technically a modernized version, some critics argue that its continued use carries uncomfortable historical weight. Finally, in today's age of modular and digital warfare, the MG42/MG3 lacks certain modern features, like adjustable firing rates, integrated optics, and reduced recoil systems. These limitations make it less adaptable compared to newer designs. Still, despite these flaws, the MG42's brutal simplicity and proven battlefield reliability have kept it alive. Controversial, yes, but undeniably effective. Even decades after World War II, the MG42's legacy continues to echo across modern battlefields. Its descendant, the MG3, has seen action in countless conflicts, from the Balkan Wars of the 1990s to the deserts of the Middle East and the mountains of Afghanistan. German, Italian, and Turkish forces have all deployed the MG3 in NATO operations, relying on its relentless firepower for suppressive support. Outside Europe, versions of the MG42 design have appeared in the hands of militias and national armies alike, particularly in regions where older weapons remain in circulation. Its durability, ease of maintenance, and fearsome rate of fire make it valuable even today, especially in harsh environments where modern weapons can fail. Whether mounted on armored vehicles or carried by infantry, the MG3 continues to prove one thing: a truly effective weapon doesn't fade with time. It adapts and survives. The MG42's story is more than just a tale of engineering. It's a reflection of how war values efficiency over humanity. Born from desperation in 1942, it became so effective that even decades later, armies still rely on its descendants. The MG42 proved that when a weapon achieves near-perfect balance between power, reliability, and simplicity, it can outlive the ideology that created it. But that endurance carries a darker meaning. The same qualities that made the MG42 a masterpiece of design also made it a perfect tool for destruction. Its continued use reminds us that progress in warfare often means finding better ways to kill, not better ways to prevent killing. In the end, the MG42 isn't just a weapon, it's a warning, a symbol of how human innovation, when driven by conflict, can create something both brilliant and horrifying at the same time.